Okay, here we go. I think we are live. Extend that. Wait for some people. Still gonna shut up on this one. Okay, we are live. It is official.
We're
How you
on.
doing tonight, Tim?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. All right, we'll wait for some people to get in here. So, how's your day been going, Tim?
It was good. Great day. Just looking forward to doing this. Becoming somebody, I guess.
Well, me too. I'm in the same boat. So let's just jump on into this. How'd you get into Derby, Tim?
Well, how I got into derbies, I used to, live with my brother. It seemed like all summer long, my oldest brother, and he ran demolition derbies all summer. So, it just went from there. We was always working on his car, getting back in the derbies back in the 80s and 90s. And so it went from there. And then he started working for a promoter for a couple of years. Then the promoter was getting sick of putting up with all the crap. And he said he was ready to sell. And I asked him how much, bought it. And it's been like that we've been doing this for 25 years now.
So 25 years ago, how much did it cost to purchase a Derby promotion?
I bought well, it was called Paul's Demolition Derby back then, and it had 8 county fairs, and I bought it for $2,500.
So what's Smash It? So what is Smash It worth 25 years later?
It, I think a lot, but
billions.
It would. I would say a lot. I mean, just we my junior actually added up what we paid out and pay out this whole year. Well, 23. It was over $700,000 in payout for demolition derbies. So it'll add up quickly.
So through that 25 years, what are some of the biggest things that have changed over the years?
Be real. I don't know. I mean, driving wise, for the drivers, not much. Rules has changed a lot over 25 years, but the driving style has definitely changed a lot, and that's where it gets to the bad things about demolition derbies.
Has the driving style changed for the better or for the worse?
For the worst, of course. I mean, back then, it's back in the 80s and 90s, pretty much when we started. It was all about aggressive hitting. Now it's all about winning. So it has changed a lot.
So over that time, how have the builds changed?
It seems like demolition derbies in my eyes, it goes in spurts. It goes from stock to mod and right back around every couple of years. So back in them days, it was more of a wire class, motor swap kind of car. And, you might as well say we still have those today. So, it's just a full circle, I guess, where it goes around.
So when you guys first bought Smash It, when did you guys start having the bash?
The bash has been around since 2008, and it started out kind of small. It started out at like $2,000 to win at a county fairgrounds, and it went up from there. So it's been around for a while.
So how did you ever think the bash would get to be one of the biggest events in the entire country?
No, I never did. I mean, but it seems like everybody wants to run a big show, and the more money you put into a show, it becomes a big show. So the bash has been around for a while, and it it gets a lot of cars. We'll just say that.
Why do you think the Bash gets so many cars? Is it because of the payouts, or what do you think's going
I
on
think it's
there?
the payouts is one thing. I mean, the payouts ain't everything in demolition derbies. It's the time. You know, it's a holiday weekend where somebody can get out and spend their holiday. You know, and get crazy. Don't have to get in trouble about leaving or driving. You know,
I get you. So somebody just commented you need to bring mowers back. Why did you guys get rid of mowers?
mowers. You know, it's actually with insurance. It's very expensive to get because a lot of people get hurt on mowers, a lot more than demolition derbies itself. So I just got tired of paying more and more for insurance to have them. That's why we got rid of them.
Because I remember at the Bash when I was a kid, there'd be like the whole track would be full of lawnmowers.
Yeah, mowers was big time back in the days. I guess. I mean, you know, you'd get 30 to 50 mowers at a derby, and it went downhill from there.
So you think the more mowers that came, the worse it got?
I mean, the builds. It's like anything. You know, the mower started out pretty light, then it got pretty heavy. So then it was not bending. All it was doing was breaking people's bodies and getting flipped over and breaking wrists, breaking arms, and stuff like that.
So I forgot what we were talking about before that. And mowers are the way to go these days. Everybody's posting about mowers.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't care about mowers.
Oh, well, there goes the first offensive comment of the night. This is going to be interesting. Oh, we've been started for 7 minutes and you already pissed off a group of people. Now let's keep going.
I pissed off a lot of people. I mean, you know, but I love the sport. The sport is growing. The sport is probably bigger than all of us put together.
Do you think the sport is growing in a positive direction or a negative direction?
I think the sport is growing in a positive direction. There's a lot of competition out there with drivers, promoters, and builders. So I think it's going in the right way.
So with going in the right way, does that lead us? Where does that lead the sport to? Does it lead us to something like dirt track or NASCAR or like anything along those lines?
I mean, I knew you was going to get here, and
well, I mean, everybody wants
everybody wants us to get along, and I want to get along with everybody. I mean, from the promoter to every derby driver out there. The derbies is going in the right way. Is this a NASCAR? Will it ever be NASCAR? Hell no. Will it ever be a dirt track race? Maybe, because if you think about it, derbies need to get more people, more fans. I mean, to make it where it is a dirt track race or a NASCAR or something like that. We just don't have enough fans. I mean, you've had every promoter on here, and like Sam was on last night, and I think I can't quote, but I mean, I think he said he had 4,200 people in the stands on Saturday night or Friday night. At say Blizzard Bash, we had around 7,000 fans. You don't go to all these other shows, you got 2,000 to 3,000 people in the stand. We got about 20,000 fans going to a show. That will never bring in big sponsorships. We have to get out there and do a lot more of this, podcast and get people out there doing things so bigger clientele can see us to even think about making us go to the next level.
So do you think it's the fact that the sport's not known enough out there? Or do you think it's the fact that it's gotten to the point where some shows are just hard to watch?
Some shows are just hard to watch. I mean, everybody out there wants to see entertainment. Every promoter on here comes on here and talks about entertainment. Well, what is entertainment in demolition derbies these days? It's aggressive hitting. If we keep the people in the stands on their feet, then that's when derbies can get to go to bigger places, in my eyes.
So is that why you're switching the Bash to more of a the team show format? Because that's obviously a lot more entertaining to watch than a singles class is.
Right. I mean, derby drivers has changed. I mean, derby drivers is out there to pull up, back up, and not hit a person. A team show you have to hit, or you're going to get smoked.
Well, allegedly.
Okay, but I mean, to get a major sponsor in this sport, just say Goodrich. They call the little Iceman up to talk about sponsorships. Then they see, how you drive, how you go out there and drive. They want to see entertainment. They don't want to see the guy that they're sponsoring not hitting anybody. There I go. I'm pissing you off again, I guess.
Well, of course, Campbell's. Well,
without saying any other name, it's the truth. Everybody does it in Demolition Derby.
Why do you think the Bash has earned that somewhat of basically zone that's basically one of the bagger capitals of the world?
I mean, I truly, I love Ohio, because I'm from Ohio, but Ohio and Kentucky is probably the worst state of baggers out there, and I don't know how to fix that. I wish I do. That's for sure.
Do you think there is a way to fix that, or do you think it's just one of them things that's just we're here?
I don't know. I really truly don't know how a way to fix it, or I would fix it. That's why I kind of more or less go into team shows, because that's the way to fix it is team shows, because you have to keep moving in a team show.
Allegedly.
I guess. But in Demolition Derby, it's all about, you got a minute to hit. Just, you can use that minute, but you still have to hit, and everybody does.
I think when it comes to the show like the Bash, from here's my perspective with it, even building to every part of it, it's when you're I remember building my first youth car for the Bash. I had the longest cut list at the show, and I was 12. So I think when you're building for that big caliber of a show, you go into it with this mindset of this is the biggest thing, this is the biggest show there is, the biggest stage there is. I'm going to do everything I can to win it. And I think that's when you get into that mentality, that's kind of when the show takes the sacrifice and the entertainment factor isn't there because you're there to win it, And it's a lot easier to just go and drive around than it is to go out there and entertain people to try to win the show,
Oh, I understand what you're saying, but the Derby driver can't get mad at the official for yelling at him to try to get him to hit. We can't drive your car, but we can warn you so long, after 3 minutes, if you're not hitting somebody in 3 minutes at all, there's a problem. A Demolition Derby is like football. There's drivers, as the football guy, and then there's referees. The referees have to make the calls. And, in Demolition Derbies, you got a minute to hit. You have to hit within a minute. And a minute's a long time.
It is a long time. 59 seconds, that's a lot of time. You could drink a water, eat a sandwich, go to the food stand, hang out, talk to your friends,
I don't know if a minute's that long, but a minute's a long time,
So when it comes to that aspect of the drivers just being so wanting to win so much of the Bash, do you think it has to come down to basically a respect thing between the drivers and the promoters to keep that fast pace?
It's a respect thing to keep the fast pace. It's if you want to do it or not. Everybody wants to win, and a driver that don't like to drive aggressively still can win, but they still have to make their hits.
I get you. So, when it comes to entertainment and stuff like that, what were your thoughts on how Gold Rush for when they did the national brackets, how they did it heads up to the very end? Do you think that's a way to help eliminate that problem?
I think that's a good way to eliminate the problem. But the only bad thing about Gold Rush, not talking bad about any other thing, but these drivers have, everybody knows it says $30,000 to $40,000 to $50,000 in these cars, and with Gold Rush with its one-on-one, if you lose one time, if the best team there loses one time, the best they can do is third. They can never redeem themselves to win the thing. Like we'll just say Jason last year back at Blizzard Bash, they lost a round. They went to the losers bracket, came back to the winners bracket, and won the whole thing. With Gold Rush 1-on-1, yeah, it takes the politics out, but it hurts the guy that has one mistake and can't come back to win.
I get that, but at the same time, though, when it comes to that format and the way that's set up, isn't that targeted to see who the best is?
Yeah, but I mean, everybody, are you, when you win the Derby, are you the best? Or are you just the best right then? I mean, you can't say Bob Smith is the best because he won whatever, Derby. Because he was the best that day. But there's a lot of goddamn good Derby drivers out there. I probably could name probably my top 10, but there's probably a lot more better drivers than in my top 10 out there.
I get you. So who is in your top 10?
I knew that was going, you have to say Bobby Whitaker for sure, you have to put him right out there. You have to put the bronze out there, Santel. You have to put him little Iceman right out there. He's there too. So.
I'm not on that list. Yeah, I'm a mini car driver at the Bash. I haven't even got onto that side of it yet.
I guess. I mean, and are you a mini car driver or are you a mini car shifter? I mean, where you're just shifting that mini car? Are you driving it or are you just shifting it?
I was trying to make sure it didn't stall.
Hey, you bragged that you ran this car 3 years in a row, then came back and I have never seen a Derby driver, a professional Derby driver, run a car 3 times, 3 years, and then win a big show.
Neither have I.
That's accomplishment. That's right there. That's when
I brought that car to that show, I did not think I had any chance of winning that at all. Like in my mind, I'm like, yeah, we're just gonna go out here, have fun, maybe look like an idiot for a little bit. Because to be honest with you, I pulled that car out of the weeds from the last year and changed the trans like a week before the Bash.
Right.
So when it comes to compacts and big cars, which class do you think is your favorite right at the Bash? Do you think the compacts help the show, or do you think they're a part of the show?
I think compacts is but the best show at the Bash, in my eyes, is Frank the Tank, hands down.
Why do you think Frank the Tank has such a different mentality? The drivers have such a different mentality compared to every other class.
I think I really don't know. If I knew, I'd try to get that in every class, but I just think Frank the Tank, everybody's there to say, hey, we're going to really actually tear these cars up and make a hell of a show and go for it. I mean, there's 25 cars out there and there's probably 30 Mad Dog drivers, so.
Do you think that stock or element of the build helps that out in a little bit?
It probably does. I mean, it gets the average person, to get a motor, transmission. They don't have to do 5 years of welding on the body to make it, last. And, a drivetrain can go a long way in demolition derbies.
So what was your drivetrain back when you were running derbies?
Sam Hammond. That's who built my motor. Sam
Hammond.
Yeah.
I hear Sam Hammond's I hear his name every day when I call one of the Penwells. Got the new Sam motor.
Sam is a great guy and probably one of the best engine builders out there. There's a lot of great engine builders, but I mean, for me, when I was derby, I used to go to all these county fairs and watch, especially Salina, and you'd see the Bronze, you'd see Zizzleman and all them guys fighting it out. And bronze was always seemed like they was always on top, no matter where they was at, the top three. So I was always like, who built their motor? Who built their motor? So that's why I went to Sam, and actually because Hammond actually builds a lot of their motors too. Did I lose you? I think I lost you.
Ah, great. Well, it appears we have had some of those technical difficulties, so you're going to have to look at my beautiful face for the next few minutes. Let's see here. Come over here. Who would have thought? The one day we have Tim Clark on, and we're about to get into the nitty gritty, the people's questions, and we run out of internet. Oh, here we are. You here?
I'm there. I don't know what happened.
This Northern Ohio internet is what happened. It's not a good thing. We need that smash demolition derby internet down here.
I don't know about that.
Okay. And Jeff Clark said I'm sandbagging again. Yeah, a little bit. So going back to what I was going to ask you, what do you think made the Bronze so dominant at the Bash for so long?
They're the best Derby driver out in Ohio. That's how. I mean, they build a hell of a car, and they can drive them cars. I mean, I think I would put the Bronze up against anybody. I mean, and I'd put them up against driving or building a car. They got them wagons figured out. That's all I can say.
I'd say they're hard wagon builders, you could say. They build them Ohio roundbacks. So speaking of the Bronze, whatever happened to turn back the clock?
Turn back the clock. I mean, it's like anything. It's a cycle. I mean, it was working for years and years and years, and then the price of everything of old style cars went up. You got people like the Bronze and Pinwells out there paying $10,000 for roundback wagons, the Demolition Derby, and you got people out there paying $3,000 or $4,000 for sedans, and 90% of people couldn't afford it. So the car account went to hell.
I get you. So where did the turn back the clock come from? How did that class get started?
Actually, Don Long, actually started it back in the day, with back-to-back promotions, and we took over that part of Demolition Derbies too, of back-to-back, and we just kept the name and kept it going.
I get you. So when you guys got that class, what was it like adapting that to your guys' platform?
Back in the day, all the rules was pretty much the same. It was like a wire class. Then it went to like where you could weld the doors and do a little more, from wire. So it adapted right in. It wasn't major overbuilt or underbuilt.
I get what you're saying. So, speaking of like the evolving of rules and cars, where do you see like the sport going in terms of like the heaviness of builds?
I mean, it's still going to be the same. I mean, you're still going to have mod shows. You're still going to have limited weld shows. You're still going to have stock shows. I mean, I think we're going to see that the rest of Demolition Derby's life.
Do you think we're done? Do you think it's done making the cycles every year?
No, I think the cycles will still be here. I mean, because everybody gets tired of, like a mod class, like a Blizzard Bash class. I mean, you get it takes a lot to build that car. I mean, you're talking 3-4 months. That's why you don't see that style builds all summer long. I mean, most people can't to do that, to build a car like that. So that's why all the promoters came out with like lighter build rules. And what we all need to do is come up with the name of the rule, the class and stuff like that, instead of naming it 14 different things. Every promoter has a new word for the class.
So, since you brought it up, let's jump into it. The unified rule set. Could you see that happening?
Yeah, I could see it happening. I really could. I mean, and all that's going to do is it's going to help the Derby driver more than it's going to help the promoter. Because the Derby driver, if you ever had the same rules, they could go anywhere and run it. I mean, I don't know if it would work clear across the country, but it could if we started it.
So how do you start it? What's holding us back?
All of us promoters, to be honest with you. I mean, we all say we want to work together, but is it truly a true statement? I mean, like we all know, I mean, Dustin Woods has been preaching it for years and years and saying that we need to get unified, but nobody's actually came up and said, here's how we get unified. It's going to take a lot, and it's going to take a lot of money to do it. And, I don't know if the sport or the promoters could come up with the money to do it.
So it's a possibility, but it's going to be hard to get everybody to just leave the egos at the door and move forward with it.
Absolutely. I mean, that's the bottom line,
So if hypothetically, let's say somebody gave everybody the plan and said, this is how we can do it. Would you be in that room taking charge of it? Would you be supporting it?
Absolutely. I mean, I think unified rules is the best thing ever to happen, and I know it'd be hard to do, like, because everybody wants their own rules, and, everybody says these rules work here, but they don't work there, but if we all talk about derbies could be NASCAR, well, NASCAR works everywhere. It's the same rule set. So why couldn't rules work in Ohio? That same thing as the rules in New York or, West Virginia or whatever.
So what do you think this set of rules would look like for the main class? Would it be a heavier build? Would it be like an Ohio Pro Stocks type of build, or like a Deadman Super Stock type of build? Or where do you see that going?
I think it's, well, you talk about Super Stock, you talk about Pro Stock. I mean, what's the difference? That's the first thing. I mean, you take two things off of a car and it's a Super Stock car. You add two things, it's a Pro Stock car. So if all of the promoters would actually get together and say, hey, we're going to name the unified rule set, this set, and do it, it'd be better for everybody. And, you had Pete Hansen on here, a couple of weeks ago talking about it, and talked about, if you get the same rules, get the same inspectors. That's perfect. But, you get 10 inspectors, and Pete said pay them $2,000, and that's $20,000 paying just the inspectors. And I mean, there's probably 20 different promoters out there, and I probably could name only 2 promoters could actually afford to do that. So in the long run, if you do it that way, you have to figure it all out a lot better than what people's thinking.
I think Pete was on the right track with that, but I don't think you need the 10 guys. I think as long as you have one, two, three guys to basically oversee it and make sure everything's the same from everywhere, I think that's where you're going to be good at. Because if, like, let's say hypothetically, let's say this was the thing, and like let's say took my bash car and I went down to Deadman with it. If all the rules are the same, they're going to be interpreted and inspected way differently. But I think at the same time, though, if you have a few guys, like two or three guys, to go from show to show to show to enforce to make sure everything's the same, I think that's the key to that. Don't you? Do you agree with that in a way?
I agree with that. Absolutely. You need at least four guys because there's four corners on each car, so you could have two in the front, two in the back of the car. But getting them four guys, there's what 15 big shows we might as well just say out there, to get off work to do that. That's hard. I mean, realistically, to get a guy to get off in May, get off in June, get off in July for a week it's hard.
So basically, there's way too many shows and promoters to make this a possibility.
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying we have to figure it out where, of the inspector wise, to everybody says get on the same page. Because, I mean, I don't think you need the same inspectors because I think it's all would be in black and white. I mean, if everybody reads the rule, I mean, everybody's going to look at the rule different. But if you come to the Bash for Cash with your car, we inspect your car, put a stick on it, okay? You take your car to Deadman the next week, would you say, and Jacob don't like the trailer arm, how you welded it on. So that's an easy fix. It's still the car is still built to the same rule set. Is building the car to two different rule sets and taking them to two different places. That's when you get into a big headache.
So for this to happen, are the drivers going to have to be a part of this?
Absolutely. The drivers have to be a part. You got to have the promoters involved with it. You got to have the drivers involved with it. I mean, the drivers have to put the show on. Without the drivers, the promoter ain't nobody. Without the fans, the driver or the promoter is nobody. Because we need all of us to make this work.
So when it comes to the drivers building the cars, what I'm hearing basically is that they're going to have to have respect for the promoter when they're building the car. Because sometimes you read the rules and you're building the car and you're like, this is going to be an FU car.
Well, right. I understand that. And, if you want to come and say 5 or 6 promoters get involved in this and we all have big shows, say 10 grand to win this class or whatever, you're looking you could win 50 grand with 5 different promoters. So why wouldn't you build the car to them rules? Yeah, you're going to stretch the rules a little bit where you have to cut here or take this off, but you're not going to build a car. You're not going to build a Blizzard Bash car for this class that we're talking about now, and you think you can get it through.
Do you think a way to help this further along faster is, do you think you bring it in the eye of the public to help them decide on the rules and decide what they want?
I think you'd have to, put it out there to the driver. But say if you put it out on the internet, what kind of rules? There ain't going to be one person agree on a rule set. I think what you're going to have to do is just make a set of rules and go for it. And it's just like us promoters. I mean, everybody wants to make their own. Say if you got 5 promoters, and we just call each class whatever it is, like stock, pro stock, mod, light weld or whatever. Put a chip in the hat. You put your hand down in it. You pull it out. That's the rules you make. That's the rules that because putting 5 promoters in a room to say let's make a set of rules, it's never going to happen. You're never going to agree to it. So that's in my eyes anyway. I mean, it'd be like you and me sitting down going, we're going to make these rules. You're going to want something more than what I want.
So, how hard do you think it's going to be to compromise on everything? Like, let's say somebody wants a 32-inch hump plate, but if you do that, you get like a shorter bumper plate. Do you think how hard do you think it's going to be to compromise through that?
I don't know if you can compromise on the rules like that. If you say it's a 22-inch hump plate, well, this guy has a 30-inch hump plate, but he don't have a bumper bracket. So, I mean, it's going to help your car better in the rear of the car and worse in the front of the car. I think you got to get a set of rules and go with the rules. You can't compromise on the rules, because that's when, from show to show, that's when it's going to get screwed up.
So, hypothetically, let's say on the show, the Demolition Derby Network, let's say hypothetically, we had a big Zoom call live with like 4 or 5 promoters. Would you consider coming in that Zoom call?
Absolutely. I mean, not to talk like shit or nothing, but I think I need to be there. I mean, I've been in the sport for 25 years. We could put every promoter in a bucket. How many years that they've been in business probably don't even add up to 25. I think I know a lot in demolition derbies. I kind of try to stay to myself because I don't like the drama of the derby world. But I think it could actually go to the next level. Absolutely.
So what are some of the keys that's been like some of the key factors that have kept you in promoting derbies for 25 years?
I mean, I love the sport. The sport is the best thing ever. I mean, I can remember when you was a kid in a Power Wheel. That's how I started. I mean, you love the sport. I mean, I don't ever see derbies going anywhere. I think I'm going to die putting a derby on. But I mean,
So, how many times have you been close?
A couple, I guess. I mean, probably. I've never been beat up yet, but I've been cussed out a lot. That's for damn sure.
Care to share any stories?
What's that?
Do you care to share any stories?
No, I mean, hey, everybody knows the stories. I mean, how I look at demolition derbies, I've changed. I mean, I was always the aggressive. You have to hit aggressive, So, a friend of mine, Sean Allen, he used to run a lot of my county fairs back in the 90s, and he'd win a lot. And he wasn't an aggressive driver, what I would consider aggressive drivers. And everybody has their own say-so. And one time, Sean looked at me and said, I got 60 seconds to make a hit. And I said, yes, you do. He's like, put me on the clock. So the next 3 derbies that he was at that I put him on the clock all the time. And he would hit within that 60 seconds. But goddamn, that 60 seconds is a long time on a demolition derby track. So I kept that. And I was like, dude, if you want a derby these days, you have to hit within a minute. You can't just sit out there and do nothing. I mean, it's great when you do and you win. I mean, you feel great when you win, but after you sit back and you look at it, you're like, was that a true win or was that just a win?
What's the difference in your eyes?
Well, I mean, in my eyes, I mean, I'm not saying I ain't a sandbagger. I mean, I go out there and sandbag with the best.
I saw you at King and it looked like me.
Hey, out at the King, I bought that car at the Derby, and it was stock. I turned the AC on to pull out on the track, so I knew I was underbuilt. And yeah, I'm not saying I didn't sandbag, but everybody does it. It's the officials have to make the pace, or the driver anyway. If the drivers don't want to make the pace, it's the officials. How I look at it, if there's a heat going on and all the drivers are running midway through it and hitting great, everybody should be hitting great at the time. If everybody's sandbagging, everybody should be sandbagging at the time. There's a time and a place to actually make your hits, screw off a little bit, make your hits.
So going, Jeff Clark said 60 seconds is too long for the time clock. Do you think that's too long of a time?
It's too long of a time, but it's been in the Demolition Derby for years. How can you change it now? That's what I'm saying. We'll just talk about the bash. The youth heat. The youth heat last year was 2.5 hours. Now this year I took it down to 5 gallons of gas. Because in any build of a class, there, in my eyes, and in your eyes, probably a heat shouldn't be more than an hour and a half. If you go longer than an hour and a half, your people's not touching the gas.
I can agree with that.
And if we all want the sport to move to the next level, we're going to have to get heats 45 minutes. Because, dude, ESPN is never going to look at us if a heat's 3.5 hours. They can't televise it, So it takes all of us to change. It takes the promoter to change, to work with all the other promoters, but it takes the derby driver to change too, to actually make the heat to get the heat over with where it needs to be getting over with at.
So how do you think you convince the drivers and convince the entire derby community as a whole that this is the direction we can go forward in if everybody cooperates and works together?
I don't know how to, to make everybody do. I don't know that. That's why that's why you need more than one guy doing it to have different opinions. But if I knew that, I think I'd be a millionaire right now.
I thought you already were.
Yeah, I wish I was.
Aye. So from that, let's talk about Blizzard Bash. What made you decide to go out there and put on Blizzard Bash?
Well, Blizzard Bash is the best show out there in the United States, in the world. I went out there for 4 or 5 years before I bought it, every year watching it. And it was the best entertainment show ever out there. Then when Sam called me up, asked me if I was interested in buying it, I jumped on it. Who wouldn't? It's the best show out there. I don't care what anybody says.
I completely agree.
You know.
So what are some of the main challenges and main differences that you found from like the bash and then when you guys went out there to Kansas?
Well, the main difference from an indoor to outdoor show is dirt, dealing with the dirt, behind scenes of, what you got to do when you're moving the dirt inside to get it where it needs to be at, stuff like that. That's the difference between indoors and outdoors. I think the derbies are the same. I think Blizzard Bash and Bash for Cash is, probably the two top shows out there. Not just saying that because I own them, but until somebody proves me different, I'm going to always say that. That's for sure.
What do you think do you think the indoor venue is one of the main reasons Blizzard Bash is looked at is the environment is just so much like, I don't know how, it's so much different and so much like higher than the Bash for Cash and all the other outdoor shows?
Well, yeah, because everybody's talking right now, like, to go to the next level to be in NASCAR. Well, an indoor show is the first step of being, the next level. Everybody wants to go pull through that tunnel or something like that, in demolition derbies. So, even, Gold Rush, pulling through the tunnel to pull inside, everybody wants to run an indoor show to say they did, or everybody wants to be on TV. Well, the only way we're going to get on TV, we got to get these heats over with it within 45 minutes.
How do you think I don't want to say this. how do you think you change? Well, how do you think you can bring that indoor like feeling to an outdoor show?
I mean, I you have to make the outdoor show a team event to make it. You have to make it where it's entertainment. It's entertainment. Make the hype up with it. If everybody sees everybody going out there and holding the car clear to the floor and killing everybody, that's where everybody wants to be at. What do you think everybody wants to talk about Utah shows? Utah's probably the hardest hitting derbies out there, and hell, they're only getting 30 cars. You don't need 400 cars to put a good derby on. You just need the drivers to actually put the damn derby on.
So, from Blizzard Bash, going back to what we were talking about a little bit ago about sandbagging and all that, do you have problems out there with bagging at Blizzard Bash?
Everywhere you have problems with people not hitting. Like this year we had an incident where 2 cars wasn't hitting. I put them on the clock. We timed them for around 5 minutes without it hitting an object car. That's there's a fine line where you can screw off, and there's a fine line with just not doing nothing. For 50 grand, you should hit. For 10 grand, you should hit. If it's $1,000 show, I'll give you where you're going to screw off a lot. But bigger paying show, you should actually try to make it where the promoter can afford to do it, and the only way the promoter's affording to do it is entertaining. Because when you entertain, you get that 7,000 people, 8,000 people in the stands. When you don't entertain, you get that 1,500 people in the stands. And that ain't paying the $200,000 purse or whatever like that. Blizzard Bash I think it was $270,000 in purse money this year. What event does that anymore? That's crazy.
Why do you think Blizzard Bash is one of the only shows that can basically do that?
It's the fans in the seats. It's common sense. You have to get the fans there to fill the seats, to buy the tickets, to buy the popcorn, buy the beer, to pay for it. Putting a big show on is very expensive. And money don't grow on trees. Everybody wants to do it, but when you want to put the money up to do it, that's the hard thing, and it takes years to get something started. I'm for sure Sam didn't make money the first year out to Gold Rush this year. It takes a commitment to do a big show, because you're going to lose money, and you got to regroup and go back and do it again.
Real quick before we go forward. So, for those of you guys who don't know, this week, all the money that gets donated to the PayPal username for Crashing for Kids Cancer, which should be in the description of the Facebook Live for those of you that are on TikTok, all of that money goes directly to Benson and his family. He recently passed away. I think it was like last week. This week was his viewing and funeral. Just a very sad thing in general. Go help the family out. Do what you guys can to support. Anyways, getting back into it. Hold on. I'll be right back. So what was the deal with the spray paint, Tim? I gotta ask.
What the hell are you learning from me?
Well, I'm trying to learn, trying to put on shows these days. Got to figure out how to keep my drivers hitting,
Okay, we always watching Blizzard Bash, and we've all seen the heat at a slow pace. Like I said, to keep the people in the seats, to keep coming back, to keep paying the purse that's out there, you have to keep people in the seats. So you have to entertain. So, instead of marking one car, and I'm a fat guy. I can't mark every car in 3 seconds. So I just started spraying the air, man. I was like, oh, you guys are sandbaggers.
I thought you were spraying for cockroaches.
Well, it's all about a show. And some people can take it and some people can't, and it seems like that I have a lot of people bitch about me, but I think my shows are probably the biggest out there. So it's all about entertaining.
So, how do you well, obviously, you've been dragged across Facebook for like the past 20. Well, I don't even know if Facebook is 25 years old. I think on the first day they made a post saying how much they didn't like Tim Clark. So, how do you deal with all that?
Hey, I mean, I love this sport, and the sport is my life. This is my job. I mean, I put demolition derbies on for a living. I mean, I make it or I break it. I mean, so I'm going to be here. I'll be the last guy standing. Let's just put it that way. I'm not leaving demolition derbies. All the other promoters, they'll be in their grave, and I'll still be there.
So, where do you see the future of Smash It going? What direction do you see it going in?
I see it keep going up. And, we're juniors coming involved in demolition derbies. And he's wanting to see it to even go bigger than what it is now, and like everybody else. And I can see that we can start doing a lot more bigger shows. I mean, we still do a lot of county fairs, and but I think we're gonna kind of step towards the bigger shows.
Do you think the county fairs keep derbying alive, or do you think it's more the big shows that do that?
County, I mean, you've talked to different people in here, and everybody's bitches about county fairs taking all the money, putting it in their pocket. But really, if we didn't have county fairs, would we have big shows? Would anybody be involved in demolition derbies? It's a business. I mean, even with the county fair, they have to make money. I mean, yeah, it's our problem that we go there and run for $500, but it's your hometown. You're going to do it.
So, do you think you have more problems putting on big shows or county fairs?
County fairs, of course.
Why do you think that is? It's because of that county fair mentality, or like, what do you think that is?
I mean, no, I mean, you deal with a lot more average people at a county fair. The guy that beating the windows out coming to the derby, making 2 hits against the guy that has, 5 tons of steel on his car. I mean, and everybody bitches about different things.
So, if you deal with more problems at county fairs, then why do you put on like half the county fairs in Ohio?
Well, because there was no other promoters, to be honest with you, there was no other promoters out there when I was back in the 90s as big, putting on demolition derbies. Like I said, I love county fairs. County fairs made demolition derbies in my eyes. Because if we didn't have county fairs, we would not have big shows. Everybody started putting derbies on, pretty much started at a county fair,
So they're kind of like the bone stock version of when it comes to promoting shows. The bone
Yeah,
stock are like the stock compacts.
right. I think a county fair should be more of a stock build, and then these heavier classes, pro stock and mods and stuff like that, light welds, should be a big show. If you could get all the promoters to get in this group and actually say, hey, we're not going to run, pro stock cars at a county fair or whatever like that. We're just going to do big, stocker stuff. It would be a lot better for when you had the different big shows, you'd have better car count.
Do you think that the heavier,
or you want to run your hometown fair?
Oh, I got banned from my hometown fair. They hate me there. I'm currently looking for a new one to go to.
Well, yeah, because you was probably taking a mod car against a stock car.
It was against other mod cars. It's funny to say that, like, I got thrown out of my hometown fair by the fair board. The crowd loved me. Take this to my grave. They were chanting my name. They were chanting, Iceman. When I got out of the car, I did one of these. They were chanting Ice. I'm not kidding. Ask anybody that was there. It happened. Which, I don't know. So, going from that, what's your favorite county fair?
Man, I don't know. I probably have 2 favorites, but but it's really hard. Preble County is probably right up there, and Dark County is probably right behind it. They both have 150 cars at the county fair, and it seems like you deal with less headaches at them two county fairs than any other county fair.
So, do you think that since you have a lot of county fairs, what have the car counts at these county fairs been doing?
They've been staying pretty decent. You have county fairs have 30 cars, and you have county fairs have 200 cars, and an average county fair seems like in Ohio is around the 60 to 70 car range.
So, this past year I went down to, I think it was Preble. Didn't they have like 100 stock cars?
Yeah, I think we hit at Preble. There's usually about 170 stock cars there.
How does that county fair bring in that big of a car count compared to the rest of them?
I like I said, I don't really truly know. I mean, it's that area that has Derby drivers, and they want a Derby. You can have that county fair, and you can have a county fair right beside it, like within 45 minutes away, has 30 cars. So I don't understand how to answer that question.
Do you think that's just because there's a lot more people in that county? Because I've traveled there, they don't welcome travelers very well at all. I can tell you that right now.
Yeah, I mean, you got a lot of people that stick together in their hometowns. There's for sure. I just think there's a lot of people in that area that run Derby still. That's why the car count's always good.
So I'm sure you watch all the shows you promote. Do you think that because back in the day, everybody used to talk. I've heard stories from Toby's countless times as they go to these random county fairs and be the entire track versus all the out of towners. Do you think that still holds true till today?
Well, yeah, no county fair drivers want to see somebody come in. We'll just say Kentucky. You go to Kentucky, Kentucky drivers don't want you to win, so they're gonna jump on you. I mean, that it's a bottom. It's the fact.
So where do you think you see the more tense levels of competition at the county fairs or like some of the big shows?
It has to be. I think big shows is probably the more competition wise.
So, speaking of competition, do you think there's a lack of need for competition in today's sport?
I don't think there's a lack of competition. I just think that the competition could be a lot better than what it is, because there's a lot of good drivers out there that's driving demolition derbies, but they're not using their car to the max. It's just most people don't want to use their car to the max.
Do you
That's why I think on a big stage, like a big show, it's so much money involved. Everybody wants to win, so they're going to use their car to the max to win.
I think it's the exact opposite.
He said, I
mean, put it like this, Tim. At the Bash, I ran both your $10,000 to win features this year. In the heats, when there's not really anything to prove, unless you want to win the 10 grand, it depends on the driver. For the compacts, at least, but the heats for the big cars, you basically kill or be killed. But I think when it comes to that feature aspect of it, I think there's the guys that are going to win and the guys that are going to sandbag to win, and there's the guys that aren't. So I think that the want to win, I think that makes you preserve your car in a way. Do you?
I can say yes, but I mean, going back to say I mean, I know you escaped through both of them heats pretty easy, but I think most of the drivers out there like you, and you're young, and I don't think anybody wants to jump on you really bad until it happens. It's going to happen.
I think this is the first time I'll ever say this on air. I think winning that class at the Bash was the worst thing to happen to me this year. because that not well was it cool to win the show? Was it cool to do all that? Yes. But what that did was I Rutherford said it the best. You were at a point, because this was the same way Jordan was back when he was my age. He said you were at a point, you got the cherry pick, basically whichever big show you really wanted. You chose the Bash. After that, that was the world's basically this guy is just, he's not a kid anymore. This is an actual competitor. And after that, I think that's when all the old egos, and that's when all that started to play in. And I was like, wow, I could see why people get out of this. You guys are terrible. Do you think? Go ahead.
I think, with you, you're outspoken. I mean, I think everybody loved you, but you're getting outspoken and you're getting a big head. That's why I think you had a lot harder times this summer, because everybody's looking at you as an adult now, and they know if they don't put you out, you're going to be at the end. So that's why I think you have a lot more harder time running demolition derbies now.
Which, at the same time, though, what are your thoughts on having an ego? Because I talked when I was on the interview with Don Santel the other night. He says his exact words were, when I'm going to a show, am I telling mom and dad, I'm like, hey, I think we're just going to go out there. I don't think I'm going to win this time. I'm just going to go out there, donate the money. No, I think you have to go out there and think you're going to win it. I don't think that any sane-minded person is going to go to any derby that they're running and want to win and say, well, we're just going to see what happens. I think my problem is I tend to say what I think. I tend to say, like, I'm winning this bid. This is mine.
Well, yeah, and everybody's going to. If you didn't, you shouldn't even be running. I mean, if you didn't think you're going to win, why are you even there for? I mean, everybody, there's only one winner in the demolition derby. Everybody wants to win. If you say, "Oh, I am not here to win," you're just lying to yourself, in my eyes.
So do you think here's a question I just thought of. How similar is it driving and derbying and being a derby driver compared to being a derby promoter?
Now what now?
So we just talked about having the ego and having the competition side of it. How similar is that to the promoter side of it?
It's exactly the same. What promoter out there is not saying I'm the best? I can do it better than Tim Clark, or I can do it better than this guy, or I can do it better than him. Everybody out there has the same ego. I mean, if I didn't think I was not the best, how would I stay in business for 25 years? Just like, we'll just say Don Santel. He wins almost every derby that he goes to, because he believes that he can win. You have to believe in yourself to win. Yeah, there's some things everybody does to win, but you still have to believe in yourself.
So, do you think people that call people cocky and arrogant, do you think that they truly are cocky and arrogant, or do you think that the people calling them that don't believe in themselves?
Probably both. I mean, everybody's cocky. I mean, there ain't one person out there ain't cocky. I mean, I think if the guy is saying he's going to win and then he goes out and wins, that's even better for him.
I think some of them wins just they go straight to your head.
Well, yeah, everybody wants to win. That's for damn sure. You're not in it. You're not in the garage 2 months building a car to going, oh man, I'm gonna go out here and make 2 hits and I'm gonna be happy. Hell no. Be honest to yourself. I mean,
I think the hard part is that I have a hard time regulating is what do I say out loud and what do I not? Because a lot of times, I come off cocky and arrogant, but at the same time, though, that's just how I think, and I believe that's how everybody thinks. They just don't say it.
You're exactly right. That's why I stay off the internet. I mean, really, you get a lot of people like you and you get a lot of people hate you. And when you do a lot more stuff on the internet, you probably get a lot of feedback of good things and a lot of feedback of bad things. And it's all depends how you can take it. I mean, some people can take the getting bitched at, and some people can't. But I think the sport definitely needs the internet. I mean, I think it definitely needs more people putting, stuff out there, how to build a derby car. These podcasts is great. I need to do more things, but I'm old fashioned. I don't like this stuff.
Man, I bet you and Billy got the same flip phone, huh?
I probably do.
Oh. So Steven Sickles came in. So let's talk about aggressive sandbagging. It's a real thing.
Yeah, he told me all about that out at Whiskey City, last year about aggressive sandbagging. I've never heard of it, and it ain't in my Demolition Derby handbook. I think he was just making that up.
So I think aggressive sandbagging is when I could be wrong, but I think the non-dictionary term, because it's still being processed in the online dictionaries. I think we're going through the process of it all still. I think that it defines as driving hard to avoid contact.
Oh my God! Only Steven Sickles could ever come up with something like that.
Technically, hear me out. It's a thing.
It's a thing, but even in that handbook, it says you have 60 seconds to make an aggressive hit.
Well, what is an aggressive hit?
You got to hit. You got to make the car move. That's aggressive hit. You make it shake.
Make it shake.
I mean,
so if I throw my water bottle at the car, is that an aggressive hit? Because it got hit technically aggressively. If I was angry,
I guess I'd give it to you. At least you're hitting it.
We're winning the bash with the water bottle, boys. So, going to the bash is what's coming up for the bash? Is anything changing from last year? Is anything different? Like, what's going on with the bash?
We started. We did that national, heat last year. Pro Stock Nationals. Then now we're starting to qualifying because I'm actually, Blizzard Bash is a great show. But I'm wanting to make Bash for Cash even bigger than Blizzard Bash. And I can say that I pay out $270,000 in Kansas. And to make this work, to get this team show going, I'm for sure Ohio will be paying out more than that here shortly.
So is it like enough? So like if we win the Bash, are we going to be able to buy a new house or how's that going to go?
You're not going to be able to buy a new house. That's for sure. I mean,
there goes my future plan. Sorry, Zach.
Until we get big sponsorships in there, I mean, but I think in the future, the Bash for Cash will pay really good money.
So Zach brought this up. How are the qualifying and national heats how are they going to be at the Bash? Because Zach seems to think, I don't know where he got this. He might be right. He seems to think that the feature is going to be all of the national side and all of the qualifying side at the same time.
Absolutely not. It's going to be national.
That's what I figured.
It'll be two different classes.
So is it going to be just how Blizzard Bash is when we run 2 or 3 rounds and then goes to the very end, or how's that going to work?
You'll have to beat your national guys. Your national teams will have to run against your national teams. Then qualifying will run against their qualifying. So there'll be different payouts for each class.
So are we gonna have to run more than one round to get to the feature or no?
Yeah, you'll have to run a couple rounds. At least one round, and then it go to like the B main. Then it go be to a feature. So you'll have to at least. If you don't win your heat, you'll go to like the B main, then it goes to the feature.
So is that this year or is that next year? Because
it'll be this year.
This year? Okay. So there's not going to be a Conti, there's going to be a B main then.
Well, Con C, B main, it's all the same, really.
But then the winner goes to the feature, basically.
Right.
That makes sense. So, are you ever going to try to bring in a compact aspect of that too, or just leave that all the way that it is?
I mean, we're working with the bash this year about time frames. That's why we kind of went with the 5 gallon of gas with the youth thing. We're trying to see how much time we have to put on something within 3 days. So it's a learning experience for us because we're doing mini cars too. There's a lot of classes that the bash for cash, just like Blizzard Bash. So it's all about a time frame.
So when it comes, so how do you pick your crew for the bash? How do you pick your inspection crew? How do you pick your flag crew?
I mean, really, my inspectors has been with me forever. I mean, because like I said, I do 30, 32, 35 county fairs a year. I try to use the same people over and over. So everybody knows how we, each other looks at cars. We try to keep the same guys. I hate changing different people back and forth. This year, we might try to do something like, everybody's talking about trying to get special referees or special inspectors come in to look at the cars and go from there. And I'm not saying we're going to have, the best inspectors, but we're going to sure try to keep it, out there as the best. That's for sure.
Can you name any names?
To be honest with you, I haven't really sit down and actually, thought about who I was going to ask. Of course, I used to have Toby Hiley work for me, and he has a lot of kids and he has a lot of things to do. I mean, I'm probably going to ask him to come back. We'll just say that name for sure, and it'd be up to him what he wants to do. But I mean, I even actually talked to Pete Hansen, try to get him to build me a set of rules, but he never would.
Well,
so
you'll have that.
You never know. Maybe we can get Pete off of his king of a chair and maybe come and work too. You never know.
So do you talk to Pete a lot? What's your relationship with Pete?
I don't talk to Pete a lot. I mean, I think me and Pete respect each other. I mean, I know some of my officials kind of pissed him off one year at the bash and turned back the clock. And he got mad at me and wouldn't come. He hasn't came back. But hopefully we can turn that page and maybe he'll come back one day.
So, as I asked this same question to Sam last night, what from the promoter from your standpoint, when it's like the week before the bash and you see all of these crazy builds for Blizzard Bash too, when you see all these crazy outlandish builds coming to your show, what are you thinking?
I mean, hey, sometimes I don't even think, because there is been some crazy shit coming to Blizzard Bash and Bash for Cash and stuff like that. Sometimes if it's really bad, I try to get with the person that owns the car and tell them to, I think that ain't going to work, or how is it fixed? How's it done like that? Try to talk to them and say, hey, you need to fix it back this way by the rules, or it fits the rules, or if it don't fit the rules. So, I mean, I don't know.
So going from that, how do you define your gray areas in your rules?
There's no gray area in rules because it's always printed in black and white. I don't know where gray ever came from.
Well,
I mean, it's like every promoter out there. They say, you derby drivers, you got 5 months to build your car, and we got 30 minutes to look at it. Sometimes I've seen cars be on the rack, the lift 45 minutes and an hour because, looking at it. Because, like you said, everybody wants to win that show, so they're going to do everything they can to the car. But that's when it gets crazy, because when the inspectors tell them to cut it, that's when people get pissed off, I guess. I say, if on our sets of rules from Bash for Cash to Blizzard Bash, I go with what's printed, and I usually let the inspectors to police the rules and go with the rules. and whatever they decide, I pretty much stand behind them guys. Because how I look at it, if you override the inspector and a derby, why you even have them there if you're going to make the rules to yourself what you think, So I think you have to stand behind your guys that's helping you with the cars. I mean, I'm not saying I have the best inspectors, and I'm not saying I have the worst inspectors, but I think the promoter has to stand behind whatever the inspectors want to be. I don't think they can override them because it just looks bad on you, I think.
So no matter what, you have to stand behind what your inspector says, even if you might not agree with it.
If it's in black and white, absolutely, you got to stand behind them. That's how we look at it. If it says something, that's how the gray area. If it says you can have a 12-inch bumper bracket, we're going to give you 12 inches. We're not going to give you 14 inches. We're going to give you 12 inches. So.
Makes sense. Good way to look at that, I suppose. So let's read some chats. What do we got in here? Everybody complaining how they got loaded. Let's see here. Let's see what we got. Anything else in here? Oh, so for the bash, not for the bash. So for your rules, are they going to be the same for the big shows as they are the county fairs?
Yeah, I mean once we put a set of rules out there, we really don't. The only rules that we change is Blizzard Bash. I say, all Ohio rules is all the same. Even with Blizzard Bash for Cash, then Blizzard Bash has their own set of rules. Because when I took over Blizzard Bash, they already had their rules. That's why I never changed them to my rules.
Do you think those heavier builds out at Topeka? Do you think that would suits them better than like a pro stock set of rules would?
I don't think around here works with a heavy built car. I mean, we're having a promoter right now here in Ohio on them heavy built cars, and the car count ain't great. So I mean, that tells me that class don't work in Ohio anymore.
So why do you think that is? What changed?
I think people don't want to spend the time of building that caliber of a car. I mean, that's a 4-month, 5-month build. Most derby drivers don't want to do that. They got to build that car, and then they're going to run at least 3 county fairs and 3 other shows. So they don't have time to do that anymore.
I agree with that, and I disagree with that at the same time. Because let's be honest, 90% of the guys that are running the Bash Pro Stock team, they're probably starting on their car now or soon to now. So, I mean, with the same amount of time frame, I think it's just, do you think some guys are just scared of that heavier build?
Oh, I think some guys are scared of that heavy build, but I also think some guys can't afford that class. You got a $2,000 cradle in your car, you got a $1,000 training brace, you got a $4,000 transmission in it. Most people can't afford that. And these days and ages, an average person makes $900 a week at their job. They can't be a little Iceman and live in the garage and build derby cars all day long.
I wish I could do that too. I got to make a podcast, We've got to try to build the ESPN of Demolition Derby, which we're getting there, but not yet. So behind the scenes, how big is the divide between everybody, from the promoting side to the production side to the derby politics side of it? How big is the divide there?
Well, I mean, from the promoters, I mean, there's a little divide there. I mean, I'm not saying a big, but I mean, we're all in this to do the same thing, So, and everybody wants to be the best at it. It's like winning. There only can be one winner, So there's always going to be the top promoter, and there's always going to be the bottom promoter. But we shouldn't look at it that way. We should look at it as a group to make the sport better than what it is. I mean, who cares who's on top and who cares who's on bottom? We all need to work together. If not, this sport is never going to go where we want it to go.
Well, where do we want the sport to go?
we want to be on mainstream TV. Who don't want to see their derby car out in the middle of the track on a Friday night watching it, you know?
I could see that. So how do you think we get there? Do you think we all have to come together?
We all have to come together. There's no question about that. Everybody out there, from the fan to the derby driver to the promoter, we have to come together. But it's a fine line to come together. I mean, it's really hard. I mean, everybody wants to be on top.
So go ahead.
Like Sam has that wheelman kind of thing, started. Maybe that's the first step, is to do that class. I mean, hey, maybe in my eyes, that class should be. Sam started at his show, and there was 5 different other promoters out there doing that. Well, why ain't that? Why don't it move to the next show? Well, if we're in it to be together, each promoter should have whatever. Even if we have to start with one class, or to make it to the next round. Move it around.
Go ahead. So, obviously, between a lot of promoters, there's a lot of past experiences that may or may not be good. How do you think do you think it's possible to set all the egos aside and set all the past bad experiences aside and all come together? Like, could you see yourself working with Sam Williams and nominating some of the drivers from the Bash for the Wheelman National Qualifier or something along those lines?
Right now, be honest with you, no. I mean, hell, his show's the week before mine. Why am I going to, nominate some driver to go run for somebody else instead of me? That stuff like that, we shouldn't be on top of each other. We should be talking to each other like, hey, I got a show in May. When is your show going to be? Especially these bigger shows. County fairs, we can be on top of each other. But we're all in this to make a dollar. If TJ puts a show on Memorial Day weekend, and I put a show on Memorial Day weekend, Sam puts a show on Memorial Day weekend, Frankie puts one on that weekend, what's going to happen to the Derby? It's going to go to hell. We shouldn't do that. Do you think the pissing contest between all the promoters is, which making like 50 big shows a year, do you think that's held the sport back in a way? Maybe. I mean, maybe we have too many promoters as it is now, but it's hard to say, hey, you should, I shouldn't be a promoter, or, Bob shouldn't be a promoter. I mean, everybody's doing it, but I think if we just work together, it'd be a lot better. So how do you start working together? How does all this start? I truly don't even know the answer right now. I don't, I don't. I mean, I just know that we have to actually do it if we're going to do it, and not say we're going to do it, but do it. Anybody can come on, this podcast here and say, hey, I'm going to work with Bob or whatever. Then as soon as it's over with, well, fuck Bob, they have to just do it. I think we all can help each other out. I have putting on bigger shows. I have a motto, what I do, and somebody else might not have a different motto, I think we could talk to each other and actually help each other out in the long run. So I think talking to a bunch of people, I think one of the only real ways to help this move forward is to bring all these issues and all these backside problems to the public eye. Could you agree with that in a way? Absolutely. And I think this is the first step of it. I mean, what you're doing now, seriously, and maybe it would be a better step if you got everybody together, and sit down in a room and actually talk about everything, and not do it behind everybody's back. I mean, you can't, like as me, I can't say I want to work with everybody and then get off this and then the next tomorrow I talk to 10 Derby drivers and tell them how bad all the other promoters are. It is not going to work if you keep doing it that way.
So I think this is what we need to do, Tim. I think I need to go. I need to get a group of the top promoters, which I don't think it can. Do you think we should? Do you think you could start this like group nationwide, or do you think you have to start here first? Because go ahead.
I think you can't go nationwide. I mean, there's too many promoters to do that. I mean, I think if you did 5 or 6 and to get it started, like Dustin actually talked about it, for the last 4 years, it might work. I mean, but everybody has to put their ego down because everybody's going to think they're the best. And everybody thinks each person has the right ideal, but.
What are your thoughts on a guy like Dustin Woods?
Hey, Dustin is Dustin. I mean, I think he's trying to do different things, and I don't think Demolition Derbies has been around for years. Trying to reinvent the wheel is probably the most stupidest thing we can do for the sport because it's not helping it; it's hurting it in my eyes. But
I can agree.
I mean, he's trying to do one thing, and everybody else is trying to do something else. I mean, if everybody sees something's working, why don't we stay on that and not do something that's not working?
So, going back to what I was saying a little bit ago, I think my goal with having these promoters on, which I kind of came up with this plan before I even started having you guys on, was so I want to get all of you guys in one big call, one of these streams, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, everything. And I want to have the discussion live. Would you be willing to be a part of that?
Yeah. I mean, but everybody ain't going to, seriously, most people don't have thick skin like I do. They ain't going to get on here and say the true statement. I listen to most of your pod, with the promoters, I can say when somebody's saying something that's bullshit or that's true, that's bullshit. Nobody's going to say this true thing out there, because everybody wants to look good. I mean, nobody wants to look bad, and get hate mail the next day. Hell, I'll probably have hate mail tomorrow. You never know.
Well, me too. I think we have to look past, I think in order to grow in anything, you have to look past all of that stuff. Like today, fine example of it. I posted this thing. I'm trying to build the ESPN of Demolition Derby, a weekly show, gets everybody involved, whether they're from the hardcore Derby fans or want to talk to guys like Don Santel and pick the minds of Gage Sumner live. To the people that don't really care, they just like Derby. But when I made that announcement, I made all that, I immediately just started getting told I can't be better than Trackshot. Trackshot already does all that stuff, which, I mean, more power to them. I think instead of basically going away from that, I think in any way you have to run to it. Like the goal here is this is going to become the ESPN of Demolition Derby. And I think as long as I stay on that goal, I don't think it can be stopped. So I think as long as we move forward and we don't pay attention to the people that don't matter anyways, the people that are just going to say whatever they want to say, like TJ flipped out on somebody the other night that was just all they do is just spread hate. If they're going to spread hate anyways, then why do you pay attention to them? So I think if we look past that and we aim it towards the people that are truly going to support it, I think that's how it succeeds. Because I've seen a lot of promoters, they try to cater to the people that you can't make happy. Everybody wants to add trans braces in certain classes and do all this extra stuff in some classes. And it's a small group. Like Deadman, for example, this year. Last year, that super stock there, they had a lot more cars. But then they added trans braces and they added all this stuff that the small majority wanted. And it ended up basically pushing a bunch of people away. So I think in order to move forward with it, you have to apply to the majority. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I mean, and Derby drivers will get the promoters in more trouble than anything. I mean, because we'll just say the bigger name Derby drivers talks to the promoter because everybody wants to be, liked. So they'll say, "Hey, we need this, we need this." So, because that's what they want. It ain't better for the sport. It's better for them.
Oh, for sure. Like Tim, if can I get kickers out of this? Like, can I get maybe some more fixer plates out of this or anything like that?
Right. Exactly.
Well, I was kind of hoping for a yes, but here we are. So,
but I mean, it's like all of us. I mean, you just said Track Shot Live. You got Derby Tees, you got Derby Nation. I mean, Derby Tees and Derby Nations is exactly the same. But I mean, we all need each other. I mean, there's not one person better than the other person. I mean, I'm not. That's what I'm saying. We all have faults, but we all need to work together.
Like, I think that's one thing that for our sport entirely does that just holds us back is, so I'm just going to use this as an example. One thing that Derby Nation does great is they apply to that diehard Derby fan base that just wants to get the raw Derby, wants to know. They don't really apply to the same group the Track Shot does. So Track Shot applies to that group of Derby fans, not the people that are like they want to just watch the Derby, But instead of coming together and like looking at it and seeing, well, maybe if we did better here, maybe this could end up better. But instead, they just give the good old FU to the entire situation.
I believe that. I mean, I truly believe that. I mean, because everybody thinks they're better than each other. I mean, it's bullshit.
Which, behind the scenes, do you see that? Is that the same between all the promoter game? Is like they either join or we're going to war? Is that basically how it always goes?
That's pretty much how it goes. I mean, it's the truth. How I feel that you'll have 3 or 4 promoters gang up against me. I mean, but like I said, I've been in this business for a long time, and I truly believe in my heart I'll be the last one standing out of all of us if we don't work together.
So what makes you say that?
Well, I mean, I got 25 years in this. I mean, I've had money over 25 years making money at demolition derbies. So I'm not saying a guy that's just starting can do what I can do. But with that guy just starting and works with me or works with another big promoter or whatever, I think we can go a lot higher places.
Do you think the problem is that nobody realizes what the direction of this and how big this can truly be if we set the small problems aside and look towards the bigger picture?
I mean, yeah, it is, but I mean, nobody wants to look towards the biggest picture. I mean, everybody's working for today. I mean, I don't want to bring no names up because I don't want to piss nobody off, but I mean, it's like promoters, every promoter wants their show to be success and, make money and go home and be happy. Nobody wants to say, oh, damn, my show's over with. I just lost 50 grand. Now, where's that money coming from? So.
So, where do I want to go with this exactly? So, going forward with that, I don't know exactly where I want to go with this. Let's read some comments. Well, so before you got into derbying or while you were promoting derbies, did you ever have like a business?
I worked for a garage door business for a while. I started my own garage door business. Then derbies actually started getting really bigger. So I got out of the garage door business and just do derbies now.
So when I was talking to Taylor Feldkamp this weekend, he brought up a lot of a lot of great points and comparisons about how promoting derbies is just like running a business. Is that true?
It's absolutely true. I mean, it's the same. If you're not promoting a derby, company as a business, you'll never stay in business more than 5 years. You know, it it won't happen. Because you, you gotta make it where it pays for itself. You know,
So
big purses is great, but if you don't get people in the stands to pay for that big purse, somebody has to pay for it at the end of the night. You know, I don't think derbies should be, saying we should be posting out there that hey, this derby's going to pay $4 million to win, and don't pay it. I mean, if you say it, you should pay it. I mean, that's how it's going to grow the sport.
I understand. So speaking of payouts, do you think the 10 grand mark has just kind of become the basic for the big show?
I mean, 10 grand ain't nothing anymore. I hate to say that, but it, hell, you can win 10 grand at a county fair these days. You know,
Like when I won the bash this year, for some reason in my mind, I'm like, when I win the bash, everything is going to be set. It's just going to pave a gold road for the rest of life, and we're going to be good. And I won the bash, and like, not at all, not at all. I had 10 grand. I thought I was a millionaire for like a week, and then I was right back to square one.
exactly. That 10 grand for a derby these days is not very much.
Like the craziest part is I won 10 grand. Like it's like in that in between. Like you can buy a lot of stuff, but you can't at the same time. Like you could buy a boat or you could buy one wagon. I think the prices of everything, it's just not a lot. So do you up that 10 to a higher number, or do you think you just leave it the way it is?
Well, to to pay out more money, like I keep saying this, to pay out more money, you got to have fans there. I mean, if because the money has to come from somewhere, or you got to have a sponsorship. And right now, there ain't one promoter out there can get sponsorships. I mean, there's not enough hype of demolition derbies out there to get a sponsorship. You know, like you go to any derby, you get 4 or 5 thousand people there, and you go to the next derby, you get 2,000 people there. You know, the big sponsors don't like that. That's for damn sure.
Why do you think that is? What part of Demolition Derby is a turnoff for all these huge corporate sponsors?
Entertainment. I mean, it goes back to that. You have to keep the people in the seats talking about it. You know, Eldora. You go to one of their races. They got 25,000 people there at every night. You don't ever see that at a demolition derby. You know, I would say the most you've ever seen at a demolition derby is around 8,000 to 9,000 people at one show. You know, you don't get the big numbers at a demolition derby.
So, if you're trying to sell to that corporate sponsor, would you have you ever tried to get Blizzard Bash into that corporate eye?
Yeah, actually, absolutely. And like I said, it's all about ratings. You can't have a show 4 hours long and think a big corporate sponsor is going to come in there and jump on it and take off with it. Promoters out there can say that's going to happen, but that's a long way away to make that happen.
So, before we can get that corporate sponsor, we all have to come together.
Absolutely. We have to work together, not come together. Everybody has to work together.
So, even though we all know this and we've known it for a while, why hasn't it been able to happen?
Egos. Everybody wants to be the best. Everybody thinks they're the best. So if somebody else is better than you, they don't want to talk to that person. They don't want to talk to that person to make themselves better.
So everybody wants. Wait, go ahead.
everybody wants to be the number one, and there's only one number one.
I said this the other night. Everybody wants to be the Michael Jordan. Nobody wants to be the Scottie Pippen or the Dennis Rodman, which nobody realizes they all got paid almost the same because it was so much money.
Right. Exactly. I mean, maybe we could get derbies where, you pay the derby driver to come, and they know how much money they're making before they even get there. Then that would be closer to like a NASCAR or something like that. But would everybody do that? Would everybody come and actually put a show on and say, if I came out and said, hey, I want 40 cars and I'm going to pay you $5,000 a piece to come? Would people do that? I don't know.
One thing I don't understand, Tim, is here's how smart derby people are. We can all bicker back and forth about everything, but there's such thing as professional cornhole. That's on television. Now explain to me, what part of cornhole is more entertaining than Demolition Derby? I don't care if it's Metal Mayhem featured. I would rather watch that than cornhole.
I'm with you. I don't know how it works, but I mean,
bro,
I know in Demolition Derbies, to be totally honest with you, as well as I do, we don't have the ratings. You can see it. Everybody, who probably has the most ratings in Demolition Derbies right now? Probably Clutch.
Maybe if I say this again, I can get through to the derby community. Okay, we are getting beat by cornhole. I'm hating on cornhole right now. What part of tossing a bag 10 feet is more entertaining than Demolition Derby? It's insanity. The fact that they can come together with cornhole and put that on national television and not Demolition Derby is the biggest sign that we all just need to leave the egos with the cornhole bags. Okay, let's come in here and talk about Derby. Okay, we just got to figure this out. It's insane. It's insanity, is what it is.
I'm with you. There's no question about it.
I could make more money becoming a professional cornhole player than I could doing derbying for a living.
It's like bowling.
Even worse. Okay, no offense, baseball is boring. How did baseball become a $1 billion thing with the MLB? Golf's even worse. How is golf televised? Oh, just gonna go over here, put that one down the fairway. Yeah, that's entertaining. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I haven't figured it out in 25 years. That's what I'm saying. If all the promoters came together, maybe somebody knows something that I don't know.
No, it's because a lot more people can relate to playing cornhole. Oh, this is hard. This is very hard. It's golf. We are getting beat by cornhole. Literally cornhole. There's no way. I'm going to have to make a shirt that says we are losing to cornhole. I am getting with Clutch, and we're making a clothing line. We are losing to cornhole.
Hey, Clutch is actually figuring out how to stop the derbies these days. Did you see that, where he's coming out wiring his bumper up underneath the car and then unwiring it to get a red flag? Did you see his little... I seen that. I was like, oh, my God.
Ladies and gentlemen, Clutch Marls.
Clutch is a hell of a guy. I mean, I like him really.
Dude, I love Clutch to death. The thing I love about Clutch the most is it's like talking to you. Clutch is genuine. When Clutch talks about Emperor Penguins for 10 minutes, and when he talks about having a kid in junior year and getting married at prom on senior year, it's so funny and so precious because I know it's true.
Right.
Like, who has a kid in junior year and then gets married in the senior year and then has 3 more kids after high school with the same lady, all in the matter of 4 years?
Sounds like he needs to be out in the garage a lot more.
I don't know. I love Clutch. Clutch is going to be a great part of this ESPN show because the audience that Clutch targets and that loves Clutch is not the same audience that loves me.
It's the truth. I mean, you have different audiences. Everybody does.
It's like when I posted that thing today with me having, which probably is going to end up like being a female co-host. People were. It was really weird the amount of comments I got on that. But at the same time, though, although I am very awesome and I am amazing and sexy and handsome and brave and all of these things, not a lot of women want to sit and listen to me for 2 hours. I don't know why. It just doesn't seem to be the case. So I think when you create that cast that basically comes together with an entire group, I think that's the true key to success in all this. You know, it's like when you're putting on a show. Yeah, it's like having the big car class. Yeah, it's cool, but there's a lot of compact guys you're missing out. There's a lot of truck guys you're missing out. Which, going from that, what is your favorite class, Tim?
It's definitely a car class is my favorite class. I mean, you know, I like big cars. I mean, because I know how much work they have in putting the car together, you know, but I don't know if I truly, you know, have a favorite class of them out there because mini car drivers can drive probably harder than full size cars. So I really, like I said before, my favorite class out there is the Frank the Tank class. I mean, because it's named after my brother, and you know, and actually everybody does hit out in that class.
So you and Russ, you guys started Smash a Derbying, right?
It was actually my oldest brother Jeff, me, and Russ started it. You know, and then Russ got out of it for a couple years. You know, and then it was me and Jeff doing it forever, and then we was just bumping heads. You know, and when you bump heads when you got a family business, it's really hard. And so Jeff stepped out, and I kept going.
When Russ passed, how did that affect Smash It?
It affects Smash It a lot, you know, really hard. I mean, you know, Russ did a lot, you know, but my son actually stepped up and he got out of college and he started doing everything Russ is doing with the behind scenes with the books and all that stuff. So, but it's working really good now.
That's good. Was little Tim ever like heavily involved in derbying back when he was a kid?
No, I mean, really, Timmy wasn't. You know, Tim and Tim's mom and me. I mean, I think derbies actually killed my marriage. You know, because I was all about demolition derbies back then and wanting to make something of my company. And you know, so Tim pretty much was with his mom all the time. Then when he went to college, then when Russ passed away, you know, that's when Tim actually said, "Hey, let me come in and help you." And you know, we fought for a while about it because I didn't want him to do that because I wanted him to make his own life. But then he actually did it. You know, one day he came home because he kept saying, "Dad, put me to work. I want a job." And I was like, "No, you need to stay with your job." And one day he came home and said, "Well, Dad, you got to hire me now because I just quit my job today." So I said, "Well, you're going to do a lot more of book work like you do now," because he went to sports management. So he does everything behind the scenes with the book work and stuff like that. So
going back into that story, why did you not want Tim to be a part of it?
Because I wanted him to actually have his own, what he wanted to do. I don't want him to do something that I love to do. So I wanted him to actually do something that he wanted to do. And then he finally did say, "Hey, Dad, I want to go with you and make this even bigger than what it is." I mean, I think Tim actually has been doing it for a couple years now. He sees a lot, and he has a lot of good, things ahead of him. Where I think he can take over, smash it, and make it probably to the next level.
The thing, like like you can obviously tell, like talking to him and like just the way he is, you can tell he's not like he hasn't like he doesn't know everything about derbying. But the thing that I like about him the most that not a lot of that I think gets overlooked is that like he's willing to learn. Like he's willing to put himself out there and kind of look like an idiot. But he's at the same time though he's willing to learn and grow and figure out the sport basically.
Absolutely. I mean, Timmy don't. I'm not saying he's dumb as hell, in demolition derbies, but he don't know. He don't know probably how to build a car as good as you do, But like you said, if somebody was going to teach him, I mean, he's a fast learner. That's for sure.
Which, like, I think when it comes to this derbying especially, I think you have to be a fast learner because this sport changes every day.
It does. I mean, and look at you. I mean, hell, you was a nobody, but now you're like one of the top guys.
I was like, when I was 9, I was asking you to run the bash, and now we're here.
I remember when you was 8 or 7, and you was telling people in the inspection line at the bash, "Hey, buddy, you got to cut this." And the guy was like, "Who is this 6-year-old kid telling me what to do?" So.
The best part about that, which like I never realized until now, is that like a lot of those guys that are still doing it, I have ran against. Put that into perspective.
Right.
And
a lot of them guys, you're doing better than they are.
Well, I wouldn't go that far. I don't need to make any more enemies now. Let's calm it down here a little bit. It's do you remember that when I came up and asked you if I could run the bash youth class because you had to be 10, but I was only like 8?
Oh, absolutely. Like I said, I've seen you at the bash, in inspection line, telling people to cut this, cut that. You can't do this. You don't ever remember any of that?
Oh, I remember it all the time. Like I'll be like, it was the funniest thing. So
I thought you was crazy. You'd sneak in the barn, jump in the inspection line like you was somebody, telling people to cut.
I just faked it. I just faked it till I made it, I guess. I don't really know.
And that's what most people do. They just fake it until they make it. I mean,
like the first, like, so I watched Pete. Pete just commented. He was one of them guys at the bash that was a little peckerhead. Funny story. So the first time I saw Pete was at Blizzard Bash when him and Songaluski and all them guys ran out there. And, me being a little 6-year-old child, I thought that was the coolest thing ever. So like 2 or 3 years goes by and I'm in the fender well of his wagon at the bash. So, well, Pete just joked around with me. And then like a year or 2 goes by. And then I talked to Pete again. I got a Pete Hansen shirt that year, signed it. It still hangs up on my wall, pretty cool thing, But so I never would have thought that being from that situation, from seeing Pete and from that small age, from that young age, and basically I talked to Pete maybe like once, twice, 3 times a week at bare minimum. I never would have thought that would have came from that,
Oh, I understand what you're saying. I mean, and talking about that, like Pete and Ryan out at Blizzard Bash when they ran against a team of 4 against 2, and they actually smoked everybody. I think that's actually, some people might say I'm crazy, but I think that made Ryan's name and Pete's name that year. That's when, yeah, I mean, most people didn't even know Pete Hansen. He was from Pennsylvania. Nobody knew derbies from Pennsylvania until that happened.
Which, do you think that the national spotlight in that and all that, do you think Do you think that pressure, that added like pressure that it's either like go big or go home out there? Do you think that like helps the drivers or hurts the drivers?
I think it helps them. I mean, because everybody wants to be on the big stage, and everybody wants to have a name. I mean, so you have to prove to everybody that you do have a name. So I think the big stages help to make that name for everybody.
So when it comes to having a name, how do you like hypothetically? How do people build their name in the Derby community?
I, you know, I really don't know how to answer that question. I mean, you got to go out there and actually win. That's how to make a name. You can make a name for yourself for being the mad dog. I mean, there's all kinds of ways to make your name in demolition derbies. You just have to do it.
Do you so would you do you think it's better to be known as like a Don Santel or a guy that's just going to show up and make everybody know where he's at? Like this is what I'm doing, like the Mad Dog guy per se.
I mean, I'm saying Don has a hell of a name, but I'm saying there's a lot of people out there have good names too. I mean, there's different ways to make your name. I mean, think about it. You can go to almost any demolition derby out there and say this guy's going to win this heat. And 90% of the time, if you've been around derbies like you have or I have, you can pretty much pick who wins. So if we ever get into betting demolition derbies, I mean, I've looked into it. My son's looked into it. Like it has to be odds and all that stuff. But I mean, I don't know how it's ever going to work, but it'd be awesome if that gets into it.
So you guys have actually looked into setting up like sports bettings for like Blizzard Bash and the Bash.
Absolutely. And it's just, you have to get a lot more stuff because every driver has to have an odds and who's the better one and who's the worst one and stuff like that. So we haven't figured out how to have a professional guy come up with odds for each driver.
So you basically, how do you define the odds of a demolition derby driver?
I would say it's probably how many wins you have, how many times you place every time you win, stuff like that. I mean,
the thing I find the hardest about that is how do you define the odds? Because like I could tell you, I have, like somebody could say they had 58 wins when they really have like 7, and which that'll I think just it's hard. I think it'll be hard to get the math right for that, but.
And that's why I don't think it's, actually we've ever had it. That's what I'm saying. We've talked to different people with that. That's why it hasn't came to demolition derbies yet. You can bet on anything else, but you can't bet on the derby yet because the odds.
Which, like, even when it comes to betting on derbying in general, like derbying is the most unpredictable sport there is.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we'll just say the wheelman. I said Don Santel was going to win that heat before the heat even started. And look, Don had bad luck with the steering and he was out halfway through or whatever. You look, Bobby too. Bobby had bad luck that derby. He was out. I mean, 99% of the derby drivers out there would have probably picked him or Bobby, Don or Bobby to win that derby, so. Because everybody knows how good they are.
Yeah, which I think when it comes to like when people talk about the best money drivers, I think I honestly I'm gonna have to get these guys on because I wonder what part of it that when you hear a name like when prime example when you looked at that Wheelman National Qualifier list, how do you even pick who you think is gonna win? Because when you hear names like Bobby and then Don and then even guys that weren't out there, like Chad Markley and all them guys, and even the Bronze. Like, how do you pick who's the best? Like, who even is the best in demolition derby?
I don't think there is one guy the best at demolition derbies. I just think there's guys that day has better luck than other guys. I mean, I don't think, or just say Don or Bobby. Either one of them could outdrive each other. I think they both are probably right at the same level. You know, I don't think there's one guy sticks above anybody else.
I agree. I think it's all depending on the day.
Right.
If Bobby and Don went at it 7 straight days, it's not like the chances of Bobby or Don winning all 7 days is, and honestly, I don't think it would be possible.
No, I don't think so. I mean, like I said, but you can put anybody in that. You could put the Bronze's name in that list. You could put, Pete Hansen in that list. I mean, I go to a lot of derbies. I mean, I'm probably the only promoter out there that goes to almost every derby out there to see it. Because I always think that, what are they doing? Are they doing anything better than I'm doing? So it helps everybody if you look at that way. But there's a lot of good drivers out there. So I don't know if you could say one person's better than the other.
Just like that, Tim, we hit the 2-hour mark. So, you got any, before we get off of here, do you have anything else you want to say, promote Smash or anything like that?
No, I just, hopefully I see all you guys at least one of my shows from the years. Bash for Cash is coming up in May. Blizzard Bash will be in November. Probably the two best shows out there. I mean, I don't know how either one of them shows get voted not being number one, but hey, you never know.
I think when it comes to Blizzard Bash, you have to be there to understand that. Because, on the TV screen, it does not do it justice at all.
And any derby, it doesn't do, video and doesn't do that justice. In person, you can definitely tell a difference.
But I think Blizzard Bash especially, because, the camera doesn't capture the environment of it. It's the only thing that I can compare Blizzard Bash to is when I went to an NBA game and sat close to the court. That's the only thing I can compare it to, because you're right there on the action. When they're doing donuts and they're slinging mud, you're 5 feet away from that.
Oh, absolutely. I know. A lot of people get hit with mud in the stands. That's for damn sure. And, like I said, it's probably the biggest stage out there. I mean, I don't know if any other stage is any bigger.
Neither do. I think it's you and Gold Rush fighting for the title.
I mean, and Sam, Sam started Blizzard Bash. I can't say anything bad about that, but I think, even when I came on board with it, I think it's moving in the right directions, even getting bigger than what it was. We was only selling, Sam was only selling out, maybe once every other 2 years, and a lot of times we're selling out pretty decent. This year we didn't sell out, but hell, you had another big show a week before that. It's drivers can't do that. Can't go back to back like that.
I understand what you're saying. That's my main goal this year, is to try to run out there Blizzard Bash.
Blizzard Bash is it's a hell of a show, and if you really want to run when entries open, you got to get on the internet and do it, because it fills up probably the fastest derby out there.
That's an understatement. It fills up so quick, I think it's rigged. That's how quick that fills up.
Well, everybody says that, and but it's not. It truly ain't. I mean, I think people go on there. I mean, if they know a lot about computers, and I don't know a shit about a computer, and they have half of the stuff typed out. When it opens up, it'll, they're hitting send to send it, or something. I mean, I don't know what they're doing, but I mean, because I can look at Blizzard Bash thing and you can see it, say if it starts at 7 o'clock, 7:01, 7:02, 7:03, there's, it goes right a minute after each one. I mean, I can't believe there's a person typing a minute slower than everybody else. It's just really weird how that goes through on the internet.
Awesome. Well, Tim, thank you for coming on the show. We look forward to having you on there again.
Well, I mean, like I said, once we get all these promoters really wanting to do something, I'm involved in it. I mean,
awesome.
I think it'll make it even better. Maybe we can get all these promoters even in a unified point system. Who knows?
We can only hope. Awesome, Tim. Thank you for coming on. Thank you guys for joining the stream. Remember, if you haven't already, go try to donate to Crashing for Kids Cancer. The username is in the bio of the Facebook stream. Thank you guys for tuning in tonight. TikTok stream is ended. Come over here. Thank you guys. We shall see you next week. I'm trying to get the list together. See you guys. Bye.
See you guys later.